tunes shifting their names. I'm going to play another tune here that actually has its roots in the French Revolution, of all things. One that we call over here Mississippi Sawyer, which is a sunken log that could poke a hole in the bottom of a steamboat. That used to happen in places like the French Broad River. Down below here, it was sort of a dangerous occupation back in the day. So a sawyer was a potentially dangerous sunken log. This has roots in an old French marching tune called Everything Will Be All Right. I will not attempt the French pronunciation of that, but it comes from a phrase that was uttered by Benjamin Franklin when he was asked about the American Revolution in one of the salons in France. But some fife and drum bands got a hold of it, and it became a thing known as the Falls of Paris. And over here, fiddlers took it and made it into Mississippi Sawyer. Fiddle tune is contrasted with the last one. It has a lot more sort of rhythmic possibilities with the bow and everything, and that's really sort of the melding of traditions that happened here in Appalachia that sort of made all of this traditional music is kind of evident in that type of bowing. You have sort of the drop thumb nature of the banjo there. When I was playing that earlier, you're kind of using the highs against the lows on your banjo notes there with your thumb and fingers. And that's a sort of style that goes all the way back to Western Africa, and so where the banjo's roots are. Filtered through the Caribbean, of course, by the transatlantic slave trade, but the banjo's roots are there in Senegal and places along the western coast of Africa. And when you take that and apply that to the fiddle, you kind of get these the same sort of jump in between the strings there. But just as a sort of demonstration of how fiddle styles have modernized, I'm going to take that same tune, Mississippi Sawyer, and play it in a way that I learned originally from a hometown fiddler in Wythe County named Hope Lindemood, who played it on the radio back in the 1940s. So this is his version that shows a bit more of the jazz age in it, I think. Part of this presentation, I talked about ballads a little bit. Of course, ballads are part of the British Isles tradition as well, just along with the fiddles and everything. And a lot of people, when they were first coming in, the ballad collecting sort of craze that went on around here in the 1910s, thanks to an Englishman named Cecil Sharp who was coming through the area. That sort of spurred this hunt for Scottish and British ballads, English ballads, Scottish and English ballads in this area, to the detriment of a lot of what had carried on in the tradition of ballads written about around here. And so this one in particular comes from just up north of us in Ashe County, on the Allegheny and Ashe County line, actually, from a place called Ore Knob, which was a copper mine in the 1890s. And there were two men that worked there named Shirley and Smith, that was their last names, and they were killed in a rock fall in 1875. And I've done a little bit of research on it, and actually from the archives at Appalachian State, if you combine two of the source names that are listed at the bottom of two different variants that are in the archives there, you can find a miner who worked at the Ore Knob copper mine, living on the Peak Creek Road, the next road over, and that's likely who wrote this song. And unfortunately, I cannot call his name to mind in front of y'all right now, but this is the ballad of the Ore Knob copper mine. Two men worked with us here. What became of them, you soon shall hear. We worked all day till the evening time. Before the ground it made a slide. 15 minutes after 5, they were healthy men and yet alive. Rocks and earth came tumbling down, and under them those men were found. Cold and dead, no, they could not live. God had took the spark he gave. They brought to the top a dreadful sight. How lonesome was that Tuesday night. Smith had a mother this news to hear. We hope that they did their hearts renew and receive them in that heavenly crew. Shirley and Smith, how much we miss. We hope they've gone to a world of bliss, but none of us could Shirley and Smith were not actually from Ashe County. They were migrant workers, in a way, from Randolph County, North Carolina. And it's always kind of struck me that that ballad is about two migrant people who were accepted into a community. And just the next road over from Ornob, if you drive by there, is a Christmas tree farm where much the same thing is happening again today. So just a modern parallel there, all that. While we're in ballad mode, Elena mentioned my book that I published a few years ago with UNC Press, and the in-laws here, my editor, are here, so to give them a shout out. But Lucas Church, who was just promoted to, what is it, chief editor at UNC? Executive editor at UNC Press. So yeah, I was proud to hear him. Yes, oh yeah, and yeah, sorry, shameless plug, the book is for sale back here later on. Yeah, it's got a laundry list of a subtitle, The Freight Hopping Thief, Bootlegger, and Convicted Murderer Behind the Appalachian Ballads. And so this is the story of Otto Wood the Bandit. He was born in Wilkes County, just down the hill, in 1893. He lived a life of crime until he was 37 years old. He was killed in a shootout with police in Salisbury, North Carolina. But he'd packed a lot of living into that 37 years of life. He was in and out of 5 different state penitentiaries 11 different times, which was made all the more amazing by the fact that he was missing his left hand from a hunting accident and was born with a clubbed left foot, which caused him to limp. But he was known as a car thief. He broke into railroad cars. He impersonated someone else in a murder trial. He snuck out of prisons in all kinds of crazy ways, whether by picking the lock on his cell or riding out of the prison yard in a concrete culvert loaded on the back of a train car. But when he died, there was a real rush that was sort of an extension of the ballad tradition in the 1930s of people to capitalize on making true story songs and ballads about people. And so in the month after he died, in New Year's Eve in 1930, in 1931, there were several bands racing to get into the studio to be the first ones to have the Ballad of Otto Wood. And one fellow named Slim Smith actually stole somebody else's ballad and made one of the first records, but he was kind of stymied by the fact that he was not a musician. He could only sing, so he had to book whatever backing band was in the studio that day to back him up, which happened to be King Benny Nawahi's Hawaiian Serenaders. So this is the only Appalachian ballad that I know of that you can hula dance to. One of the ballads of Otto Wood the Bandit. Now listen, folks, and I'll sing you a song. I'm telling the truth, but it may sound wrong. It's all about poor Otto Wood. I know that he did everything that he could. Lord, he was in the pawn shop a rainy day, and the truth may hurt, but I must say, he struck a man with awful blows, and this is the way that the story goes. The sheriff said, people catch Otto Wood. It's a murder in the second degree. You got to send poor Wood down to penitentiary. They stuck him in the pen, but it done no good. It wasn't strong enough to hold Otto Wood. He managed some way to get outside, and with a pistol he demanded his right. And nobody knows where he got a gun, but we do know that Otto won't run. They finally caught him away out west, but they had to shoot him in the chest. They brought him back and they got him well. They locked him down in a dungeon cell, and it was there that he stayed for days and days, until he promised that he'd change his ways. He rambled out west and all around until he met 2 sheriffs in a southern town. He was met by Rankin and Kessler, they say. There he had everything his way. He defended himself the best that he could, but the law laid claim for October. I was recently up in, well, just before the semester started, I was teaching at a camp up in Saskatchewan, Canada, called the Northern Lights Bluegrass Camp. And going from campsite to campsite and fire to fire in the evening, you'd hear Canadian bluegrass bands singing about how much they missed the hills of Old Virginia and North Carolina, cabin home, which was frankly a bizarre experience, but I think it really speaks to the power of the music from this region, that it's gone all over the world, and people now can kind of overlay their own sense of home into that. And so looking through the camp booklet, they have a book of camp songs. And there was this fiddle tune, which comes from Wythe County, Virginia, where I'm from. And get my shoulder rest here. But it's called, well, y'all probably know it, Cripple Creek. Cripple Creek was a mining community that was really happening about the same time as Shoals Mills was going on here as a logging company. There were giant iron furnaces down there along the New River. And so one of the first sources for this was Uncle Norm Edmonds, who was a fiddle player from right there at Cripple Creek.